The quiet shock that no one prepared you for. You did the right things, you stayed useful, you stayed kind, you stayed busy. Yet the days still stretch thin. Grown kids are packed with their own calendars, your closest friend moved states, gatherings fizzle to texts that say, let's do it soon. The gap is real and confusing. Doing more of yesterday's routines doesn't rebuild a tomorrow. The stake is also real, your sleep, your energy, your balance, your independence. Without a new plan, the weeks can blur and the body follows. Here is one action to start today. Grab any notebook and give your plan B a working title in one line, something like Project Harbor Autumn, and write 3 anchors under it. One person, one place, one purpose you can touch this week. You'll know you're on the right track if by the 3rd evening your brain starts rehearsing tomorrow on its own. What Plan B really means at our age, Plan B is not a downgrade. It is a reframe. It's the life you build when the map you used for decades no longer matches the street signs. For those in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, it matters because time feels different. The calendar is not a ladder of promotions. It's a garden that needs regular planting. Research on healthy aging often points to the same trio: relationships, movement, and meaning. But the order matters. If you try to add meaning before you rebuild rhythm, you get stuck. If you chase only movement without people, the days feel empty. Think of Plan B as 3 small doors you open in a loop: the body door, the belonging door, the becoming door. Touch each door most days and watch momentum gather. Miss them for long and days may tilt toward isolation, a risk often associated with lower mood, disrupted sleep, and less steady walking. No scare tactics, just a gentle reminder. The loop keeps your nervous system soothed and your calendar humane. A morning that starts to hold you first, give your morning a new anchor. Keep it tiny. Pour water, step outside for a few breaths, and send one message to another person, not a long update, just a line. Thinking of your garden today? What's blooming? This 3-minute sequence regulates your body and rethreads your social net. If you're on the right track, you'll notice you move into breakfast without the background hum of dread. Next, add 1 minute of decision hygiene. Ask, what is today's smallest win for my Plan B? It could be calling the library about a class, scanning a volunteer board, or tidying one shelf to make room for a hobby you've postponed. Then commit that one thing to a time: morning, afternoon, or evening. Finally, at night, write 1 sentence about what surprised you. This closes the loop. The house with the quiet clock. Marjorie is 68 and has lived in the same Massachusetts Cape for 3 decades. After her sister died last winter, time got strange. The kitchen clock seemed louder. The tomato soup tasted flat. The mail creased the same way each day, as if the envelopes knew where to fold. She still walked the cul-de-sac, waving at a neighbor's lab, yet the walk felt like tracing old letters on thin paper. One Wednesday, she put a folded index card by the kettle. Plan B, Harbor Winter. Under it, she wrote 3 lines: person, Jean from book club, place, the senior center ceramics room, purpose, and the cracked blue bowl from her sister's picnic set. First, she texted Jean a photo of the bowl and asked if she knew a good ceramic glue. Next, she drove to the center just to smell the clay and hear the soft whir of the kiln. Then, she asked the receptionist about the open studio hours and wrote them on her palm. Finally, she sat in the parking lot for a full minute and listened to the muffled, reassuring thuds from inside. In 2 weeks, the bowl held fruit again. The house sounded less hollow. The soup tasted like soup. What this means for a 50-plus listener: small, repeated contact with people and places linked to a simple purpose can reset your days. Instruction you can follow today: no guesswork. First, sit comfortably at a table and place a notebook where your forearms can rest without hunching your shoulders. Write a 1-line title for your Plan B and circle it. Next, draw 3 short headings: person, place, purpose. Under person, choose someone who answers you within a day or 2. Under place, choose a location you can reach in 15 minutes. Under purpose, choose a task you can complete in under 1 week. Then stand up, set a phone timer for 5 minutes, and take a slow lap through your home while you decide one concrete action tied to each heading: a call, a visit, a purchase, or a repair. Finally, sit again and schedule these 3 actions into distinct parts of your day: morning, afternoon, evening. Leave the notebook open where you will see it after lunch. The benefit is immediate structure without overwhelm. If ignored, days may drift into aimless busywork, often associated with lighter sleep and lower motivation. When everyone moves on isn't personal. If you feel left behind, it does not mean you were less loved. It often means your circle has scattered into new obligations. For those over 50, social ties become fragile because they rely on inertia. The same team at work, the same parents in a school pickup line, the same church group. When the scaffolding changes, it's not rejection, it's physics. A practical pointer: rebuild scaffolding on your terms. Search for senior volunteer opportunities near me, encore career classes, or community for seniors in your city. If you're on track, within a week you'll have one recurring event on your calendar that involves other people counting on you, a strong antidote to loneliness in older adults. The bridge you don't need permission to cross, let's call him Mateo, 59, a former transit mechanic in Phoenix who retired 2 years early after a back scare. He missed the rhythm of shift whistles and the radio chatter. The first months felt like a snow day, then like a long hallway with no doors. He had a small desert garden, a careful budget, and far too much time. Mateo found a tool library a few miles away, a place where neighbors borrow drills, ladders, soil testers. First afternoon he walked in, the place smelled like cedar and motor oil. A fan clicked lazily in the window. He asked if they needed help. First, he sorted screwdrivers by head size. Next, he learned to log items into the system and wipe the handles with lemon cleaner. Then he started a Thursday fix hour, showing teenagers how to swap a drill bit. Finally, he was the one answering questions, the way retirees used to answer his. Within a month, he slept deeper. He laughed mid-sentence. He stood a little taller. What this means for a 50-plus listener: responsibility to others can give your days a spine and your nights a quieter mind. A small call to those quietly listening: if any part of this hits home, add one line below your Plan B title tonight. This week, I will show up once somewhere someone expects me. If you're willing, share in the comments one place you're considering. Your note might be the nudge someone else needed. When the body says no before the mind does, sometimes it's not energy, it's friction, joints that complain, a balance that feels unsure. This matters for older adults because the body's veto can sabotage the best social intentions. The workaround is to design frictionless starts. Choose venues with benches and handrails. Pair standing tasks with seated ones. Carry a light backpack so your hands are free. If you're on the right track, you'll notice you do not cancel due to small aches, you adjust. There's a deeper reason this works. When your body experiences safe movement, your nervous system loosens its guard. Conversation gets easier. Remembering names takes less effort. You rebuild life not by forcing it, but by making room for it. An early win you can feel by the weekend. Before bed tonight, place your shoes by the door and your notebook on the kitchen table. Open to the page where you wrote person, place, purpose. First, in the morning, send that one-line message. Next, after lunch, spend 10 minutes on the place, even if you only drive there and sit in the parking lot. Then, in the late afternoon, take the first tiny step toward the purpose. Order the glue, print the form, put the old guitar on the couch. Finally, after dinner, write one line about how the day felt different. If you're on track, you'll sense a softer edge to the evening. A second call in case you needed it. If you've been listening but haven't started, here's your low-bar step. Comment with 2 words, plan begun. It's enough. And if you're not subscribed yet and want more practical, gentle guidance for rebuilding life after retirement, tap subscribe so you won't miss the next part of this Plan B series. A door cracks open. What if your Plan B is not a single plan at all, but a narrow door you keep propping open with small objects? A text, a bench, a mended bowl. If so, tomorrow is not a cliff. It is a hallway with lights you can switch on, one by one. You are not late. You are right on time for the life you can still make. When old maps stop working, there's a hidden grief that no one warns us about the moment you realize your old map no longer leads anywhere familiar. The routines that once gave shape, office hours, raising kids, caring for parents, have dissolved. And what's left is quiet. Too much quiet. For many over 55, that silence feels heavier than any workday ever did. But here's what researchers and counselors who study healthy aging have found. Life satisfaction can rise again, sometimes higher than before, if you replace structure with rhythm, not noise. You don't need to fill every hour. You need to give time a new pulse. The first sign you're on the right path is simple. Your mornings start to have a reason again, not obligation, but anticipation. Why busyness does heal. Many try to outrun emptiness by saying yes to everything: committees, errands, grandchild babysitting, new apps, endless scrolling. But busyness is a decoy. It mimics purpose without giving it roots. For seniors, this often backfires. Your nervous system stays on alert, sleep quality drops, and the day ends feeling blurry. Instead, think of rebuilding life like tuning a guitar. Tension and slack both matter. A good Plan B has space. Time to breathe, think, rest, and connect, not just stay occupied. If you're on track, you'll notice a calm rhythm settling in by the end of each week, even when nothing big happened. A story of starting too fast. Howard, 62, from Seattle, retired after 35 years in logistics. The first week felt liberating, no alarms, no inbox. Then came the flood. He joined every club that sent an email. Monday, hiking. Tuesday, mentoring teens. Wednesday, photography. By the 3rd month, he woke up exhausted, resentful of his own calendar. One morning, while making coffee, he watched sunlight catch the steam and realized he'd become a manager again, only now of hobbies. That day, he canceled everything but one, the photography club. There, in a converted community hall that smelled faintly of old varnish and cinnamon buns, he learned to see again. First, the wrinkles on a wooden bench. Next, the wet sheen on a pigeon's wing. Then, faces. Finally, his own reflection in a dark shop window, softer than before. Within weeks, his sleep returned. His laugh lines deepened. He told a friend, "I stopped being busy and started being alive." What this means for a 50-plus listener, meaning builds from focus, not volume. Choose 1 or 2 commitments that make your hours feel textured. Instruction: how to create gentle rhythm first. Divide your day into 3 simple zones: morning, midday, evening. Next, assign 1 pulse to each: movement, connection, and reflection. In the morning, move, a walk, light stretch, or household chore. Around midday, connect, call, visit, or share a meal. In the evening, reflect, write, pray, or listen to music that calms you. Then repeat this loop daily for a week without forcing variety. Finally, at week's end, note which pulse felt strongest and which felt missing. This simple pattern stabilizes mood and sleep without overloading your brain with choices. If ignored, the risk is subtle disorientation, days blending, motivation thinning. When family doesn't fill the space, it's one of the hardest truths of aging. The people you love most can't be your whole plan. Children grow into their own storms. Friends move or slow down. And sometimes your partner is right beside you, yet emotionally adrift in their own season. This is not failure, it's life continuing on multiple tracks. A key action for older adults is to broaden the circle beyond kin. Studies in gerontology repeatedly show that even one non-family bond, a neighbor, a volunteer partner, a club acquaintance, can boost both cognitive function and emotional resilience. If you're on track, you'll notice laughter returning without obligation. The garden bench moment: Ellen, 71, lost her husband 3 years ago. Her children visit monthly, kindly but hurried. The house felt too still. She tried painting, travel shows, even puzzles, but nothing held. One late summer morning, she sat on a park bench near the rose garden her husband once loved. A woman about her age sat down beside her, sighing after tying her dog's leash. "Beautiful day," Ellen said. "Too hot for beauty," the woman replied. They both laughed. That laugh cracked open something. They started meeting every Thursday, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with silence. First, Ellen brought homemade muffins. Next, she asked for book recommendations. Then she shared her husband's favorite rose variety. Finally, she joined the woman's walking group. By October, she no longer dreaded the empty kitchen. Her steps had purpose, toward people, not memories. What this means for a 50-plus listener: friendship in later life often starts by sharing small discomforts, not grand similarities. Micro takeaway: don't look for a replacement of what was lost. Look for resonance, someone whose day hums at your same tempo. If you feel unsure where to find such people, start by going where conversations can begin naturally: dog parks, community gardens, art classes, or local libraries. You'll know you're in the right place when silence feels easy. A warm prompt for you: has anyone unexpected become part of your new circle? Share one small story in the comments. It might help another listener see what's possible. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing for more stories and steps about rediscovering purpose after 60. It's free, gentle, and made for you. When purpose hides in small repairs, rebuilding life doesn't always mean big moves. Sometimes it's fixing the hinge that squeaks each morning or replanting herbs in an old pot. These acts restore agency, your quiet reminder that the world still responds when you touch it. Occupational therapists often note that visible feedback activities like cleaning, painting, or mending reduce anxiety and improve mental clarity in older adults. If you're on the right track, you'll find yourself humming while doing chores you once delayed. The subtle turning point: Plan B, begins not with motivation but with momentum. One action completed today creates ease for the next. Think of it like lighting small lanterns in a long hallway. You don't need to see the end, you just need to keep one light within reach. Tomorrow, add 1 lantern. The weight of unused hours: there's a peculiar heaviness that comes when time itself stops demanding things from you. After decades of being needed by bosses, children, schedules, suddenly the day belongs entirely to you, and instead of freedom, it feels like fog. Many older adults describe this moment as a day with too much air. It matters because the human brain, especially past 60, craves structure for stability. Without it, cortisol, the stress hormone, can stay slightly elevated, leading to restless sleep, weaker focus, and even slower digestion. A good Plan B begins by giving time a shape again. It doesn't require strict routines, just reliable touch points that your body learns to expect. One sign you're on the right track: you start waking up a few minutes before the alarm, not from anxiety, but because your inner clock is working with you again. The secret power of naming days: try this. Instead of labeling the calendar with Monday, Tuesday, Give your days simple themes. Movement day, people day, repair day, rest day. This helps your mind link identity to action again. After retirement, many lose the sense of who they are because roles vanish: the teacher, the nurse, the driver, the parent. But themed days return that sense of shape without the old pressure. You'll know it's working when you stop saying, "What day is it?" and start saying, "It's my repair day, I fix what I can." Micro story: the broken fence Gerald, 65, used to be a mail carrier in Ohio. When he retired, his mornings became aimless. Coffee, news, a walk to nowhere. Then one morning he noticed the fence behind his shed leaning half-rotted. He decided to fix one plank a day. First, he cleaned the nails, savoring the metallic tang of the air. Next, he sanded the splintered boards while a neighbor's radio played old Motown songs. Then he painted one section bright white, sunlight flashing off the wet wood. Finally, after a week, he leaned back and realized he was smiling. The fence was straight again. More importantly, so was his posture. What this means for a 50-plus listener: tangible progress on small tasks restores a sense of movement to life itself. Instruction: how to reclaim the day. First, wake up and sit by a window for 2 minutes before touching your phone. Let your eyes adjust to daylight, it resets your circadian rhythm. Next, name your day, whisper it if you like. Then plan one small action that fits that theme. A 10-minute walk for movement day, a phone call for people day, a tidy drawer for repair day. Finally, when evening comes, mark that day with one line in your notebook: what you touched, fixed, or felt. Over time, this sequence becomes your compass. If skipped for long, you may notice your mood thinning and your sleep drifting, signs that time has gone shapeless again. When letting go feels like losing yourself, part of rebuilding life is shedding layers you once thought permanent. The job title, the identity of caretaker, even the rhythm of constant helping. For many seniors, this feels like disappearing. Yet psychologists remind us, letting go is not erasure, it's space-making. You can't plant new roots in soil already full of the past. A small test: if recalling your old life brings tension to your shoulders instead of warmth to your chest, it's time to release some of it. Write a goodbye letter to your previous self, not to mourn, but to thank. Keep it sealed in a drawer. You'll feel lighter. The farmer's market awakening: Clara, 73, widow, retired accountant, once drove to the same cafe daily just to see familiar faces. One Saturday, the cafe closed. On a whim, she stopped by the farmer's market. The smell of basil, the chatter, the clinking of jars, it stirred something. She started volunteering there, handing out flyers for the local food pantry. First, she folded pamphlets. Next, she learned the names of 3 vendors. Then she baked banana bread to share with the stall owners. Finally, she began managing the sign-up table once a week. Now, Saturdays are market days. Her fridge is full of flowers. Her phone full of new numbers. What this means for a 50-plus listener: stepping into environments that naturally invite talk, not forced conversation, often reawakens curiosity and confidence. A quiet reflection you can try tonight before sleep: list 3 moments today that involved other people's voices, live, on phone, or through laughter overheard. That's your social heartbeat. Notice if it's faint or strong. Next, list 1 moment when your hands created or fixed something. That's your agency pulse. Finally, 1 moment that softened your breath. Music, tea, prayer. That's your calm. If you record these nightly for a week, you'll begin to see your own life rhythm emerge again. That rhythm is your real plan B, a mid-series invitation. If you're following along with your own plan B, tell me below, what's your day called this week? Movement, repair, or something else entirely? Your comment may help another listener name theirs. And if you haven't yet subscribed, now's the perfect time. The next parts will explore how to find belonging, not through big crowds, but through one-on-one warmth that lasts. When memory and meaning intertwine, the mind after 60 has a beautiful trait: it seeks connection more than novelty. It wants stories that link past and present. So instead of chasing new hobbies, think of continuing threads. Did you teach, build, garden, care? Those skills still translate. Volunteer tutoring, fixing tools, community gardens, caregiving networks, each reuses your old mastery in fresh soil. You'll know you're doing it right when old memories make you smile forward, not backward. The simple truth: rebuilding life after everyone moves on is not about replacing what's gone. It's about rediscovering what still responds when you reach out. A fence straightened, a call returned, a loaf shared, small acts that whisper, "I'm still here and the world still answers." When loneliness becomes a habit, loneliness after 60 often starts quietly: a skipped invitation here, a canceled plan there. Then days layer over like thin dust until solitude becomes routine. What few realize is that the body adapts to isolation. Cortisol levels rise slightly, alertness increases, and suddenly rest feels unsafe. You try to relax, but the mind keeps listening for a voice that never comes. This matters deeply for older adults because chronic loneliness has been linked to slower healing, foggier memory, and reduced motivation. But it can be reversed, not through forced socializing, but through reconditioning. The small step: reteach your body that connection feels safe again. You'll know it's working when conversation no longer drains you, it steadies you. The practice of tiny outreach start with the smallest unit of connection: acknowledgement. When you see someone, the cashier, the neighbor, the mail carrier, meet their eyes for 1 second longer than usual. Let it register. Next, speak one sentence more than required. Instead of thanks, try thanks. That color looks great on you. These micro-exchanges retrain the nervous system to expect kindness, not silence. Then once a day, message one person you haven't talked to in a while, not to catch up, but to appreciate. Just thought of you when I saw this weather. It's a gentle door knock, not a demand. Finally, after each outreach, pause and breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6 to anchor calm in the act of reaching out. The story of the red scarf. Diane, 64, once a high school librarian in Vermont, lost her husband right before the pandemic. Her children live on opposite coasts, kind but busy. She filled days with chores, then sleep, then more silence. One frosty morning, while donating books, she saw a community board advertising a winter knitting circle. She almost walked past. Not my crowd, she thought. But the flyer's corner had a loose red thread curling like it wanted to be pulled. First, she attended just to watch. The room smelled of wool and cinnamon tea. Next, she borrowed needles, her hands clumsy but curious. Then a woman beside her, silver hair, bright laugh, showed her how to fix a dropped stitch. Finally, 3 months later, Diane handed that same woman a red scarf she'd finished herself. When asked how she felt, she smiled. "I didn't just make a scarf, I made my sound back." What this means for a 50-plus listener: connection often begins not with similarity, but shared rhythm, quiet focus, gentle presence, and small wins. Instruction: how to rebuild your social muscle safely. First, choose one low-pressure environment, a library group, gardening club, or local workshop, where attendance isn't mandatory. Next, plan to go only for 15 minutes the first time. Tell yourself you're allowed to leave early. Then when you arrive, focus on observing first: the sound of chatter, the lighting, the feeling of chairs beneath your hands. Finally, on the second visit, speak to just one person for 1 minute longer than last time. This gradual exposure helps your body associate social contact with safety, not stress. Over time, you'll feel energy instead of tension after interactions. When reconnection feels awkward, many seniors say the hardest part is not the event itself, but walking through the door. That everyone already knows each other, fear can be paralyzing. Yet research on social belonging shows that people usually overestimate how much others notice their nervousness. In truth, most people are relieved when someone else makes the first friendly move. A mental trick: instead of thinking "I'm intruding," think "I'm adding warmth." You'll notice your posture straighten, your tone soften, your courage return. The man who knocked on his own door, Ernest, 76, widowed, former post office clerk, realized he hadn't spoken aloud for 2 full days. His television filled the silence but not the emptiness. So one Sunday he put on his hat, walked to the building next door, and knocked. He brought nothing but a jar of homemade pickles. "Thought you might like these," he said when a young woman opened. She blinked, surprised, then smiled. "I love pickles." First he stayed 2 minutes, next week 5, then she began inviting him in for coffee. Finally her little boy started calling him Mr. E. Now every Sunday there's laughter on that stairwell again. What this means for a 50-plus listener: generosity often precedes connection. Give first, even a jar of pickles, and watch your world reopen. A gentle pause for you: what would your version of the red scarf or the jar of pickles be? One small creation or gift that carries a piece of your warmth. Share your idea in the comments. It may inspire someone who's still hesitating at the door. Why movement helps connection. Body language is social glue. When we move, we express openness. When we stay rigid, we signal defense. That's why gentle motion, walking, light stretching, gardening, often leads to better social confidence. If you're over 60, aim for a walk and talk habit. Invite someone for 10 minutes of slow walking instead of sitting across a table. It lowers tension and deepens conversation. If you're on the right track, you'll leave the walk with more energy than you began. When night feels long again, evenings can reopen old grief. The phone is still, the house hums. Try this: light a small candle or turn on a soft lamp, play a memory song, and whisper one gratitude aloud. It grounds you in presence. Then jot tomorrow's one human task: who you'll text, where you'll go, what you'll mend. That becomes your thread forward. You'll start to notice nights lose their edge when mornings already have meaning.